All right, good morning, everyone. Before I answer your questions, I want to take a few minutes to provide an update on some of the major roadway construction projects undertaken by the Department of Transportation during the past construction season. I'm joined this morning by Department of Transportation Director, where did you go? Mr. William Johnson, thank you for being here, and as well as some members from his team. As we near the year's end and the end of the construction season, I am pleased to share that 4 major projects are now significantly complete: Reisterstown Road, Edmondson Avenue, Dundalk Avenue, and Browning Highway. While a modest amount of work still remains to be done on those roads, when construction season restarts in the spring, motorists using these key roads should be enjoying major improvements already. These city roadways are undergoing major repairs for the safety and the convenience of our Baltimore commuters each day. Thousands of vehicles use these thoroughfares to access key businesses and destinations such as universities and hospitals, as well as the Port of Baltimore. And as demand on Baltimore's transportation network continues to increase, we seek to improve our roadway infrastructure for our residents, for our businesses, and for commuters. After enduring months of traffic woes, motorists can now benefit from the convenience of newly paved roadways and from some significant streetscape improvements. I'd like to thank Director Johnson again and his entire team of dedicated employees for a job well done. And I'll now ask Director Johnson to come to the podium.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a pleasure to be here today with our mayor to announce that work is substantially complete on 4 major construction projects in the city: Reisterstown Road, Dundalk Avenue, Edmondson Avenue, and the Browning Highway project. Crews have been working throughout this past construction season and for, in some cases, years prior to try to complete this important work. DOT started Reisterstown Road in 2012. This project cost about $9 million, and it includes improvements from Northern Parkway all the way up to the city line. It will result in ADA ramp improvements, roadway resurfacing, sub-base work, stamped crosswalks, and many other improvements for pedestrians and for commuters. This summer, the Department of Transportation, after the announcement that the red line was no longer going to go through, accelerated its work on Edmondson Avenue and began improvements from Cooks Lane down to Hillen Street. This $2.5 million improvement included ADA ramp improvements, sub-base improvements, and roadway resurfacing along that corridor. Additional work will take place in future years on the Edmondson Avenue Bridge and additional sections of Edmondson Avenue, but this was a major section, and we were very pleased that we were able to get it done during this construction season. In Southeast Baltimore, we began work on the Dundalk Avenue project, I believe, in 2012, and this turned into a major reconstruction. It cost about $21.5 million, and it included work from Eastern Avenue all the way up to the city line. It also included major sub-base improvements, ADA improvements, a number of signalized intersections, etc. And that work is finally wrapping up. Finally, we'll talk about the work that was done on Browning Highway, which also began in 2012. It's about $16.5 million project, and as you know, the Browning Highway project serves as a major truck route and also supports traffic coming in and out of the port. In addition to the work that we were already doing on Browning Highway, the city recently received a $10 million Tiger grant, which we were very fortunate to receive. That money is going to be spent to make improvements to the Colgate Creek Bridge, along with contributions, some contributions, a $2 million contribution that'll be coming in from the state and additional to some city funds. So all of these major corridors are very important to the city. We're very pleased to have been able to complete this work during this construction season. And we'd like to thank again our team, who you see here, who have worked so hard to make these things become a reality, and most of all to thank all the residents of Baltimore City and commuters for their patience as we've pursued these improvements in our city. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Director Johnson. I guess before I open it up for general questions, I'll ask if there are any questions for our transportation team.
I have a question. Mr. Johnson, can you or your team explain what happened with the curbs on the median strip on Rowland Avenue and why they had to be, the reveal was so small initially, and why you had to rebuild the entire area? What was the problem there? Was it the original design or what?
Yeah, the Rowland Avenue project started out as a straightforward resurfacing project. As we got into the project, we started to realize that there were drainage improvements that had to be added to the project. In addition, there was the protected bike lane and some of the standards for bike lanes, a certain width, that resulted in us having to make drainage improvements, having to cut into the median to widen the street to accommodate the bike lanes, and to make a number of other improvements along that roadway. It's also approaching substantial completion, but we're kind of keeping our fingers crossed in terms of the weather continuing to operate. But we believe that that project should be done, if not this month, by next month we'll be done.
So what, the pavement was done and the curbing along there is like an inch difference as compared to the 6 inches that is required by the city. How did that happen?
Well, the resurfacing piece of the roadway that took place, some of the curbing was already very shallow, and so when the resurfacing was done without that roadway having proper drainage already in place, we realized that we were going to have to reconstruct curbing and some other things in order to accommodate the drainage needs. So most of it had to do with the fact that over the years with resurfacing, the reveal was already very shallow. And so once they went out and they started to do the resurfacing, they realized that there was not enough space there for proper drainage. So they had to go back and redo the drainage. The good news is that we were able to get the work done, to do the additional work along that roadway, and we're approaching substantial completion also on Rowland Avenue.
And what are the status of the trees? There's a lot of concern that the trees' roots were being cut, and that there's some reports that many of the trees are dying, in the process of dying.
Well, we were very sensitive to the health of the trees. The department, as part of the project, actually brought in an arborist to work with us, and we'll continue that work to monitor the condition of the trees and do whatever we need to do to try to make sure that the trees do survive and or that suitable replacements are found if they do not. So.
Thank you.
Just real quick, the 4 projects, their total cost on, now they're substantially complete, how much of these 4 all cost and how long did they all take?
It's, let's see, 16.5, 21.5, 9 million,
Edmondson Avenue was how much?
and 2.5.
50 million?
2.4 for Edmondson?
Right. So it's pretty close to 50 million. And that's before you include the additional work that's coming with the Tiger Grant and the other work that's going to happen on the bridge.
Where does the money come from for those projects?
Most of this is from our federal match funds. We work with state highway and federal highway to receive funds to do the improvements, and there's a local match requirement of 20% from the city.
And that comes from general fund?
Yes, and from our capital program. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. You gotta hold on. You can get Addison.
Questions? Does anyone have any questions on the audit? Does anyone
Yes.
stick around?
Well, we do, yeah.
Okay, then everyone else stick around.
Can I do that first?
So first, I want to open up. We're still going. Everybody's
Yeah.
good. All right. First, I want to open by congratulating Jane on winning the Alfred I. DuPont Award, highest broadcast award in.
I'd be nice to you today.
I said it, not him. You have to be nice to me.
That's right, I gotta be like that, thank you.
All right. Let's get started on the nice train.
Well, let's talk about the audit, because Henry's here. How is it that employees, how is it that that kind of performance is permitted by a staff of inspectors? I don't know, how many inspectors are there?
There are 5 full-time inspectors, 5 full-time inspectors and 2 contractual inspectors.
So, I mean, this is a pretty nasty audit about their performance, so how is it that, in terms of their work performance?
Yeah, I would disagree. This was not a nasty audit. These are relatively minor findings related to administrative record keeping.
Well, I mean, if the inspectors are inspecting properties that aren't in existence,
That is not what was said in the audit.
some places are out of business, some places are vacant, churches, you know, when they go,
Yes.
et
Can I
cetera.
take that question?
Yes, ma'am.
The only way to find out how many where the businesses are operating is to inspect them. If we only inspected the businesses, the licenses that we had record of, that would create an incentive for people not ever to register, because that way they would never be in the system to have a license. So you have to inspect not just the known licenses, but also those other properties that were discussed in the audit. And you talk about a nasty audit, you should understand that both the audits were unqualified, correct? Meaning there's a clean bill of health. To suggest that it was nasty because they made recommendations on how we can improve government, I think is just a mischaracterization of the audit.
I'm saying, I'm using the word nasty in it.
Okay,
I understand it's a clean audit in terms of the financial statements.
Then we should say it was a clean audit
Okay, this
that
is
had
not
recommendations
the
for
first agency
improvement.
that has been criticized in an audit for the work habits of its employees. There's the liquor board, there's DOT, there's now this. And so that's my question. What safeguard is there in city government to make sure that people are doing the job they're supposed to do properly, efficiently, and effectively?
Okay.
Is that
Yeah.
that question?
Now, there's nothing in the audit that says, in the performance audit, that indicates that the employees are not doing their job. There are findings that there is opportunity for effectiveness and efficiency improvements, primarily related to our database management. That's the primary issue.
81 days of 251 they're actually inspecting? That's one inspector's record?
Yes, but you need to read the report to understand the full content. The individuals were working in the office, so if you read the full report, it'll give you the full context.
What about the item? I believe there was an item that said inspectors often will go to maybe a bar or something that's not open until later in the day and never end up actually doing the full inspection because the bar is closed.
Right, so the issue is the inspector may not know the hours of the operation of that particular facility till they get there. Some bars open up at 9 in the morning. Others don't open up until 4 or 5 in the afternoon. The inspector won't know till they get there because we don't have a list of the hours of every bar. So if they go and they're not open, they will reschedule it.
They do reschedule.
Yes, to revisit when they are open.
There was also, the auditor mentioned that there were payroll discrepancies and that people could have gotten paid more or less? What do you have to say?
Yeah, we've reviewed that, and essentially, because it's a manual record-keeping process, some individuals may not have been paid for time they worked, and conversely, they could have received payment for a day they didn't work. We've reconciled it, and we're in the process of making the adjustments. And there was nothing in the audit that indicated that this was an extensive problem or that it was intentional. It's due to the manual nature of the process, which is why there was the primary recommendation to automate.
And then one of the things I think we've seen both with the first audit and this one is that as these auditors are coming in, they're looking for a certain level of record keeping in city agencies that may or may not be there. I mean, what are you guys doing to address that issue?
Well, we formed a quadrennial agency audit committee that's going to look at the types of findings that appear to cross over all of the audits and formulate corrective action plans that would be citywide in nature.
The second of the audits that was mentioned today, I believe there was an item where there was a project that board estimates had only authorized $5 million and change, and a total of $10 million was spent. In light of findings like that, I guess my question is, you know, and you've said that these are relatively minor findings. What would major findings be?
Findings that you will not find in the financial audit that was released. So now let's go back and clarify your question. We did not spend $10 million. We appropriated $10 million over 2 fiscal years in 2007 and 2008. We have spent approximately $8.1 million. That $8.1 million was all approved by the Board of Estimates on 3 occasions. It leaves a balance of $1.9 million. The issue is that the auditors were not able to locate the documentation for the full $10 million. So their question was, how do you know you have appropriation authorization? We provided from the Ordinance of Estimates for 2007 and 2008 that documentation.
Okay, I apologize, I haven't had a chance to look through it. My question still stands, though. What would you consider to be major audit findings, major problems?
Misappropriation, which did not exist, which is not part of the office. Fraud, waste, and abuse, which was not part of the audit.
How about the timeline for completing these? Obviously, I guess we're kind of a crunch. It's the last year, they have to be done. 2 out of the 26 or 3 out of the 26 are now completed. Are you worried at all?
Okay, it's not 26. There's 13 principal agencies that have to undergo the audit. We have until December 2016. We broke the 13 agencies into 3 segments. What you're seeing is the segment 1 audits are starting to come out. The segment 2 audits will then come out, and the final segment, round 3, will come out next fall. So we're confident that, I'm sorry.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But there are 13 financial and 13 performance, so isn't that 26?
Yes.
Okay.
I thought you meant 26 agencies.
Okay.
But that's correct. A performance audit and a financial audit for each of the 13 principal agencies.
What
But
is
the
your-
timeline
what is-
still stands.
What is your timeline for the other audits that are expected now? You have a police audit that's supposed to come out on the 15th of December, and then a rec and parks that's supposed to come out November 30. What is the timeline now?
Those audits will be completed when the auditors complete them, and the finance department is no longer giving out estimated times of completion since we have no control over it. The auditors have control over
Okay,
it.
we're looking the next few weeks, the next few months, what's, you know?
Again, I'm not providing any timelines because I cannot control the timeline.
So how would you be able to assure that the audits will be done by December 2016 if you can't control the timelines?
Because I'm in contact with the audit firms, but we're not publicly giving the estimated times of completion, because if we're not able to meet those, it's a write-up. So rather than a write-up, we're not going to issue the timelines. We'll provide the updates on the website, and that's how we're going to do this moving forward.
And when do you believe I know you don't want to give a date, but how close is the police department now to being, the audit of the police department to being finished?
It'll be this spring, in the next few months.
Okay.
Yes, no other questions?
Beyond the audit, I mean, beyond.
No.
We done with the audit?
I'm done.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mayor Carl Stokes, who's a mayoral candidate, obviously, said this morning that and this has been echoed by others, that there is some, I know it's a fine line, but there's some concern that people are being scared away by all of the hype about being prepared for Armageddon if, when these verdicts come in the William Porter case, or the possibility of that. How do you respond to that? I mean, do you share concern that people are being scared away?
I have a responsibility to be prepared. We took very seriously our own after-action investigation, as well as two independent reviews of what happened in the spring. We've made tremendous progress toward preparedness. I'm prepared. How you and your peers decide to report that level of preparedness, that's on you. I mean, when you have stations talking about Baltimore's on edge, that's not me. That is many people reporting it as if preparedness, being prepared, means that we're on edge. No, we're prepared, period.
But I think that what people are concerned about is this image of 50 Anne Arundel County police officers, very visible in DeRidder Park with their riot gear, and elsewhere. I mean, this kind of staging of all of this very large police presence.
So I'm not 100% sure what you think prepared is, but prepared is prepared, meaning that we have assets in place. You can't have them and not have them. We have them ready.
The consent decree with EPA is scheduled for a January 1st deadline. What the city says, I mean, you have a long ways to go. What's the status of that? Will there be delay, new schedule for that consent decree?
Yeah, so the consent decree recognizes that plans to correct the wastewater collection system really take time to analyze, to design, to construct, and to monitor effectiveness. While Baltimore received one of the first negotiated consent decrees issued in cities subsequently lasted typically a lot longer than the one that we negotiated. Many communities with early consent decrees have worked with EPA to reopen and extend their completion date because of the understanding of how complex the repair work was taken. Each step that the city has taken under its consent decree has been reviewed and approved by EPA as well as MDE, and we're absolutely committed to living up to the goals of the consent decree, along with other critical wastewater and water infrastructure projects. We're also committed to a spending program that keeps affordability to our citizens and our customers at the forefront, and I've spoken here many times about my fight as a member of the U.S. Conference of Mayors to really push for those affordability standards. It is very, very important to me. It is an issue that not too many people understand. When we continue to talk about the cost, the rising cost of these infrastructure improvements, and how they are really unfunded mandates that are being placed on the back of users, whether or not they have the ability to pay.
So what's going to happen on January 1st? Is there going to be a new announcement, or what's
I don't know if there's going to be a new announcement. I can say, as I said before, that we're negotiating a longer period, and we're going to continue to do the work. Whatever happens
They have
on.
not given approval yet of an extension. That has not been formally done.
That is what we're negotiating now.
Right.
I can say that while we're doing that, the work continues to go on. I mean, we're not pumping the brakes, hitting the pause button. We continue to do the work while we negotiate an extension. As I said, just as many.
Of how long is
I don't know how long the plan, the negotiated, the goal of the negotiation is.
One other thing, the Environmental Integrity Project issued a report yesterday criticizing the city for unreported, what they called unreported sewage overflows that were, the city said are intentional overflows. And that this is going down Jones Falls into the Inner Harbor. One of the reasons why the Inner Harbor has high bacteria and fecal bacteria and other rates. What's your response to that, and what is the city doing? Can they close these overflows?
We're working very hard to correct it. I mean, I have stood with our partners in the environmental movement to pledge our work to continue to improve our infrastructure so these things don't happen. But again, I've said on countless occasions that when you have a city, an old city with aging infrastructure, these are the problems that you have to face. And what we've seen, as I mentioned, as many cities that are facing these same issues have seen, is that the intention or the interest in fixing it doesn't always match up with our ability to get it done swiftly because of the complexity of the repairs that need to be done and the fact that there's no secret pot of money in the basement that that says, pick me for infrastructure, for sewer, wastewater improvements. We have to appropriate funds out of the water authority, which again is on the backs of the users. So we will continue to, just like we will continue to have water main breaks because we have aging infrastructure, we have an aging infrastructure when it comes to the sewer, and we continue to battle those issues to try to stay on top of the replacement work that we know needs to be done because of the age, as well as respond to when the system fails.
Last one, guys.
Today, the board estimates approved a $100,000 forgivable loan from Amazon. What's your take on that? Is it saying something about the current transportation network? Is it a good thing? How do we look at this?
I don't know how anybody could look at needing to supplement the transportation to the tune of $100,000 as a good thing. We know that the state's transportation system does not meet the needs of workers in Baltimore. I've worked very hard under my administration to supplement public transportation, whether it's the Charm City Circulator or this investment that we're making with Amazon. You can't fight as hard as we did for those thousands of jobs without doing the work to make sure that people who need those jobs the most are able to get there. It's clear that the state is not as nimble as we are in responding to those transportation needs. So just as we did with the Charm City Circulator, we're working to supplement the public transportation so we can ensure that I can do whatever I can to ensure that the people who that we fought to make sure that they had access to those jobs actually have access.
Can we correct this?
In honor of your award, Jane, sure.
Okay, go.
Are you going to make me regret this?
No. No, I think you probably would like to respond to it. So Governor Hogan yesterday went on the radio and said, I think I'm quoting here, that I understand the outrage over, Fred Gray's death, but how come there's no outrage over black on black crime? Do you have a response to that?
No, I would disagree with his assertion that there's no community outrage. I mean, in order to have an understanding of community outrage or community sentiment, you actually have to be in the community, and that's not dropping in for a photo op. That's being engaged in the community. I would encourage him to come with me on my crime and grime walks and talk to the constituents that I talk to on a weekly basis about their concerns, and not just complaining. We have people who are willing to work to have a safer city. The challenge is that in the midst of, a real crisis, I think it is our lesser selves that that would allow that type of finger pointing, when it's really a time for us to come together as a community and try to figure out how we can support each other, the community, police, everybody, businesses working together to have a safer city. We have, things like the 300 Men marches and Enough is Enough rallies. There's, they are, and that's just two examples of groups that are very active, that are very frustrated about the level of crime in our city and are willing to do something about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have one?
I just have one quick question. It goes back to being prepared. You said that you're more prepared now. How have you prepared since April, and what we can expect for the outcome of the burn?
So we've talked about a lot of the increased training that we've done. I'm very pleased with the training that has been done, the equipment that has been purchased, as well as our systems of communication. I'm not just pleased that we were able to stand them up so quickly, but they've been tested. Through the first round of motions, we were able to test those systems and to be responsive. In Jane's question, she talked about the Anne Arundel County, but we all remember what April and May looked like with National Guard troops throughout our city. And the way that we make sure that we don't get back there is to make sure that we have assets in place to respond. And that's what we're doing. So again, you can't be prepared and not at the same time. You actually have to get those assets in the city pre-positioned, and that's what we're doing. And it's not, as an effort to, even though, many, as I said before, many of your peers are trying to sensationalize our preparedness. It's not to create fear, but it would be irresponsible of me as the executive for the city not to prepare our city for whatever comes up. And that's what that is my obligation, and that is my pledge that I intend to fulfill. Thank you.